Hi, Assalamualaikum. Today, we will learn how to compare fractions. Let's learn how to compare fractions with different numerators but same denominators. Let's look at this example. Which is more? Look at the first fraction, 1 over 5. The second fraction is 3 over 5. Now, let's look at the numerators and the denominators. These two fractions have different numerators but same denominators. How to compare the fractions? Let's look at the colored parts. Which is larger or more colored parts? Yes, 3 over 5. 3 over 5 has more colored parts than 1 over 5. So, 3 over 5 is more than 1 over 5. Or we can say as 3 over 5 is larger than 1 over 5. Now, let's look at this example. Which is less? Look at the first fraction, 4 over 7. The second fraction is 3 over 7. Let's look at the numerators and denominators. These two fractions have different numerators, but same denominators. How to compare the fractions? Let's look at the colored parts. Which is smaller or less colored parts? Yes, 3 over 7. 3 over 7 has less colored parts than 4 over 7. So, 3 over 7 is less than 4 over 7. Or we can say as 3 over 7 is smaller than 4 over 7. Let's learn how to compare fractions with same numerators but different denominators. Now, let's find which is more. Look at the first fraction, 1 over 4. The second fraction is 1 over 2. Now, let's look at the numerators and denominators. These two fractions have same numerators but different denominators. How to compare the fractions? Let's look at the colored parts. Which is larger colored parts? Yes, 1 over 2. 1 over 2 has a larger colored parts than 1 over 4. 1 over 2 is more than 1 over 4. Or we can say as 1 over 2 is larger than 1 over 4. Let's look at the next example. Which is less? Look at the first fraction, 1 over 2. The second fraction is 1 over 3. Now, let's look at the numerators and denominators. Both of these fractions have same numerators but different denominators. How to compare the fractions? Let's look at the colored parts. Which is smaller or less colored parts? Yes, 1 over 3. 1 over 3 has smaller colored parts than 1 over 2. So, 1 over 3 is less than 1 over 2. Or we can say as 1 over 3 is smaller than 1 over 2. Let's learn how to compare fractions with different numerators and different denominators. Now, let's look at this example. Which is more? Let's look at the first fraction, 3 over 4. The second fraction is 1 over 2. Now, let's look at the numerators and denominators. These two fractions have different numerators and different denominators. How to compare the fractions? Let's look at the colored parts. Which is larger or more colored parts? Yes, 3 over 4. 3 over 4 has a larger colored parts than 1 over 2. So, 3 over 4 is more than 1 over 2. Or we can say as 3 over 4 is larger than 1 over 2. Let's find which is less. Let's look at the first fraction, 1 over 2. The second fraction is 2 over 3. Now, let's look at the numerators and denominators. These two fractions have different numerators and different denominators. How to compare the fractions? Let's look at the colored parts. Which is smaller or less colored parts? Yes, 1 over 2. 1 over 2 has smaller colored parts than 2 over 3. So, 1 over 2 is less than 2 over 3. We can also say as 1 over 2 is smaller than 2 over 3. Let's do exercises in Activity Book, page 93. Activity 1. Read the instruction. 1. Tick correct the fractions with the larger value. A. Look at these fractions. Let's compare the colored parts. Which is larger or more colored parts? Yes, picture number 1. So, you write correct here. 2 over 3 is the larger value. B. Look at the fractions. Let's compare the colored parts. Which is larger colored parts? Yes, 1 over 4. So, 1 over 4 is the larger value. For C and D, try to do it yourself. 2. Read the instruction. Write larger than or smaller than. A. Look at the first picture. The fraction for this picture is 4 over 5 and the second picture is 2 over 5. Now, let's compare the fractions. We can see the first fraction is larger than the second fraction. So, 4 over 5 is larger than 2 over 5. For B and C, try to do it yourself. Thank you for watching. Bye.